Hey, everybody, welcome. It's the Suzette Speaks Show. I am your hostess with the mostest, Suzette Speaks. I am a TV host and attorney, TV host and attorney out of Miami. I'm so excited to come live today because I have another lady lawyer. When I have another sister in law with me, it's extra special. I'm on the East Coast here in Miami. She is on the West Coast in Cali, and we are going to be a dynamic duo in the law for you today. I want to welcome each and every one of you, whether you're watching on my Facebook pages or you're watching right here on YouTube. Welcome, guys. I am going to be doing a heavier topic today. I'm excited about it, but it's something that I will first and foremost express my sincere, empathy towards anyone who's actually experienced this. Of course, sometimes you don't hear a lot about it, but that's why we wanted to bring light to it. Of course, when we hear the term domestic violence, we think a lot of women. We think, women and children and folks who are in a situation where, there is typically a male aggressor and then a woman who is the victim. But we wanted to highlight the other side of the equation because not many people talk about our male victims of domestic violence. And yes, in case you guys are wondering, there is a lot of stigma around it. Men tend to have to be, emotionally strong and physically imposing and have to in our society, according to gender roles, traditional gender roles, be seen as, be able to handle their woman, handle their own thing. So when there does come a time, and it's more frequent than you might imagine, where a man is emotionally abused or physically abused by his domestic partner, oftentimes they lack resources, but mostly there is a lot of shame and taboo around it. So it never gets talked about. So today's show, we're going to dedicate to removing the veil of secrecy, of shame, of the taboo around what happens to men. I have been looking up some statistics, and my partner in law today, not crime, in law, boss attorney Bri, will be bringing her expertise as well. She is another fantastic, not only attorney, but YouTuber in this space. So I invite you guys to go check out her channel. I'm sure my mods are dropping her channel. So go and subscribe to her. Y'all check her out because she talks a lot of lawsuits, like, big popular cases, trademark law. She does all kinds of law. I'm going to let her explain to you what her practice involves. But I'm so grateful that she took the invite and said yes to being on the Suzette Speak Show for the first time. And I'm grateful to have her time tonight and get to know her. This will be our first time actually talking. So as you guys get to know her, I'll be getting to know her too. Like I said, this is a topic that you don't see quite frequently because there is so much more emphasis on the woman as the victim, excuse me, from the woman's side of the equation is what I wanted to say. But we are not, again, comparing and contrasting for sake of, saying one side gets it more or one side gets it worst. I just wanted this show, I want to lay out my intention was just to highlight how oftentimes male victims are overlooked and why, how to identify male victims of domestic violence, because typically they don't tell anyone, and how we can move towards a society where we have the resources geared to both men and women, because both men and women suffer from this scourge. So if you are interested in this, I hope you will take notes. I know sometimes these type of topics can be a little bit triggering, so I'm going to give you a warning now. If you have experienced anything like this, we won't get too deep and descriptive about the abuse, but we do want to identify what are some legal elements, obviously, to what is considered abuse. Because the number one thing I've been reading is that a lot of men don't consider what they are experiencing to be abusive. And that's a theme that I've been reading a lot in various articles. So again, we have a guest YouTuber today. Her name is Boss Attorney Bri. She is coming alongside me today to help me do, some unpacking of what it means to be a male survivor of domestic violence. That's our topic for today. So I hope you will, and first and foremost, do me the honor of hitting the like button. To all my subscribers, welcome back. We call ourselves the speakers around here. So if you are a new speaker, welcome. And of course, I appreciate each and every one of you for just supporting it any way you can. Support my guests, please. And of course, I'll read as much of the chat as I can. I've been realizing that as my channel is growing, it's harder to keep up with the chat. So I'll be focused more on super chats, reading those, but I'll try to flash as many on the screen as possible. I'm planning for growth, praise God. And as we get bigger, it's just going to be harder to keep up with the chat the way I have been trying to, even though I enjoy reading each and every one of your comments so much. I'm going to have to start to go in the direction of focusing on reading the super chats and then flashing up as much as I can. But let me at least say hello to some of my folk so that we are just, familiar with one another. Again, you're going to meet her. Some of you guys may already be subscribed to her, but if not, please go support her channel because, again, ladies-in-law, we could actually talk about when she proposed several topics. I was like, oh, we could talk about a lot, sis, because I'm sure she and I share so many experiences being both lady lawyers, being attorneys, being, in a space that is male dominated. And oftentimes, even on YouTube, how we approach topics, I think, are very unique as opposed to some of our male counterparts. But today we're going to try to reverse hats today, look at things from a male survivor of domestic violence viewpoint. Again, I know women suffer from this too. I just want to make it clear that in picking this topic, we know this is not really talked about as much. So we're going there today. So I hope you will support the stream, hit the like button and comment and share. All right, let me see what's up with the chat real quick. What's going on, RM? One of my moderators. Thank you to all my moderators. I really appreciate you. Peace, Seek Amethyst. I saw you over on the lead attorney stream just now. I came at the very end, y'all. I was a little late. But one of those hardworking days where you have to be multitasking and doing so much more than practicing law and doing other things. But I appreciate you being here, Seek. Good to see you. Thank you, Matthew says. Wish there were more attorneys that cared enough about male survivors to help us like other genders get help. As a survivor myself, we don't talk about the numbers, y'all. It's far more common. First of all, childhood abuse is so common among boys. I was reading some of the stats and it was just troubling my heart. And these men, grow up and are part of our lives. So not having a place to address this type of trauma, let's call it what it is, it can, reverberate for generations. So I'm grateful. Thank you. As a survivor myself, I haven't seen that firm that will stand up for men, especially Black men. I hear you. Thank you for being here, Matthew. I hope you will join the conversation. Needs watches. Good to see you, my brother. Salute to you. RM says PA in the building. Pennsylvania represent. Hey, Miss AKA lady. Nice to see you. New sub. Okay. From yesterday's Hog Law. Thank you. Good to see you. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you. Nice to see Rose Real Estate in the building. Great to see you, my sister. How are you? Ronnie says, I'm so glad you're speaking on this. Many men are victims of DV. We're going to have to go there, y'all. Co-counsel in the building. Yes. Boss Attorney Bri came over, y'all, to show some love and to share her expertise tonight and help me unpack this tough topic. Y'all get the likes up so I can bring her on, please. Maggie, the substitute teacher. Fantastic YouTube content creator. I watch her cook. Ninja watch her cook. And she gonna make me a better cook. Praise God. Hello, everyone. As a boy mom, this breaks my heart and needs coverage. Thank you, Maggie, for being here on the super chat. Thank you, Jeremy. Hey, Suzette, just showing some love and support. Keep being great, my friend. Thank you, Jeremy. I appreciate he always supports. I thank you so much. What we do here on YouTube is literally a labor of love, especially in the beginning. But I just want to be true to my desire, which is to kind of see people, unburdened, uplifted, speak their truth. I do a form of what many would consider, I'm not a therapist, but talk therapy. We got to talk about stuff, y'all. And wonderful platforms like YouTube allow us to connect with people all over the world to do just that and get people free and understanding themselves a little bit better and stop, suffering in silence. So I appreciate you, Jeremy, with the super chat. Thank you so much for being here, brother. Thank you, very much for always supporting. Jay Bones in the building. What's going on? We're gonna drop I have to leave some time for us to drop the link. So let me hurry up and get my kids to come on. BTB in the building. Jay Bones represent. Thank you so much. I think I see another. Hey Andrew, how are you? Great to see you, my friend. DL Saint represent and say big up to you, Suzette. I'm looking forward to covering breaking news. Listen, DL came on my stream. Jay Bones and DL came on my same night. Rest in peace, Kevin Samuels, as he passed, to try to verify what was happening as it was happening. And DL was like my CNN Suzette Speaks correspondent, helping me to read the news as it was happening. Was this true? How was this verifiable? Because people didn't know. And DL and J Bones, y'all held me down. Thank you. That was such a fantastic stream, and I really appreciate folks like DL, but DL, you specifically, for always being such a great supporter. So thank you for the not only the super chat, for literally the side by side help as everything was unfolding in the tragic passing last week. Speaking of tomorrow, y'all get ready. Tomorrow, this week, I'm coming strong. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Don't look for me Thursday, Friday. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Be here tonight. Tuesday, we going live with Courtney Michelle, talking about what Kevin Samuels meant to her. Tomorrow, 7 o'clock. Courtney Michelle, y'all come. Please show support. I need my speakers in the building. And then Wednesday, thank you, Sandy B. Law. She'll be doing similar to Bri tonight. We're going to be talking about Kevin Samuels' digital assets. So much money is even just now being made, by all his videos, what he has on YouTube. And we're going to talk about who has rights to those assets with Sandy B. Law, co-host of Learn Biz, the podcast. She does probate law in her practice. So we're going to talk some probate. We're going to talk about what happens to the money, where the money go, y'all. So must be the money on Wednesday. Again, Courtney Michelle tomorrow. We got a lineup for you. I'm really excited. Are y'all ready for my guests? Appreciate you. Hit the like button as you come in. I'm so grateful to see some names, new names. Jane Doe, who is this? Hey, nice to see you, Jane Doe. Legal term that we often see. Appreciate you being here. Thank you for your support in watching and being a part of this much needed conversation. All right, without further ado, we got some heavy yet necessary facts and figures to go over, and the conversation that needs to be had tonight is about male survivors. I want to call them survivors of domestic violence. Again, there is not enough said sometimes about our brothers. So we are going to, as a attorney duo, again, let me put my disclaimer up before I bring her up. Tonight, we are not issuing any legal advice. This is for informational and entertainment purposes only. So if you have a specific case, you need to call an attorney for a one-on-one sole which I say consultation. There we go. So that they can help you with your legal issue. Tonight is only for informational and entertainment purposes. So viewer discretion is advised. Do not take anything we say as specific legal advice, because that's not its intent. We cannot give you legal advice today. But are y'all ready for my guests? All right, without further ado, please help me welcome for the first time to the Suzette Speak Show, the one and only dynamic attorney and YouTuber herself, none other than Miss Boss Attorney Bri. Hey, sis.
Hello, hi.
How are you? Good to have you. How you feeling?
I am good. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk about this topic. A lot has been going on with it lately, so I'm happy to talk about it.
Thank you. And I appreciate you saying yes. I said all that already. So right into it, my love. Please introduce yourself to the people.
Okay, I am Boss Attorney Bri. I am a California licensed attorney. I practice mostly trademark law and family law. A lot of people say it doesn't go together, but that's not the point. But I decided to do this topic today because it falls under family law, and I have been dealing with a lot of domestic violence issues involving men being the survivors or the victim of that situation. That's in my practice. So I thought I would bring it over here on YouTube because I also have a channel that is under Boss Attorney Bri, where I talk about different lawsuits, including celebrity lawsuits, about child support, about domestic violence, about all of those things, and also trademark law as well. So if you haven't checked out my channel, it is Boss Attorney Bri, and you can find me also on Instagram, TikTok, all the social medias basically.
I love it, sis. Well, welcome. We are among friends here, and I appreciate all of us who have been to law school, know the struggle. All of us who serve clients know the struggle when it
Yes.
comes to, people are complicated. Life is
Mhm.
complex. And as two attorneys tonight, y'all getting 2 for 1. Hit the like button. Let's go. As and two lady lawyers at that. Show some love, please. As I think about, what we both must experience and have in common. One thing is that you meet a client, you don't know who walks into your office or who calls and what to expect. So I'm sure you have seen, you know, the breadth, the gamut of both sides when there are family law issues involving domestic violence. So let's start by just first. Let's define our terms before we kind of get into some of the celebrity cases, etc., and talk about what can be done, especially for men. Let's talk about what do you see in your practice as you describe. There are both guys. Let's first and foremost try to, with for ourselves individually, create a new paradigm that men can suffer at the hands of women.
Yes.
Full stop. Let's stop there. I have so much in my head I want to get out. So let me let you kind of like paint the picture. I'm like, where do I begin? Let me let you paint the picture first. What do you see in your practice when it comes to men having to deal with this incredibly serious issue?
Yeah. So, first of all, domestic violence, when we're thinking about it in the sense of family law, there's also criminal law as well. But since I'm a family lawyer, I deal with it under the family courts. We are looking at violence between parties that live in the same household. You have some type of relationship with the person, whether they be related to you by blood or they're related to you by marriage or relationship as partners. And so, what I'm finding with a lot of men is that they're in these relationships with women who they tend to have children with most often than not. That often leads to some abuse. It may start off as verbal, emotional, and then it turns into physical. Not to say that the man has no hand in it. I think a lot of it begins when one party thinks the other party is not being faithful, and that can often escalate because emotions get involved. So, like I said, I've been getting an influx of men victims coming forward wanting the protection of the law. And a lot of times they come to me and they say, well, I don't think I will be able to get the restraining order because I'm a man. A man is not supposed to get a restraining order. But I have to tell you, it is possible for you to get protection under the family law.
So there's a lot of people that, first and foremost, as I said, when I heard you or when you suggested the topic, I'm like, there are people that don't even believe this exists. So first and
Mhm.
foremost, as she had described, yes, men can be victims of domestic violence. Now, why is it, do you think, that men report it less than women when they're experiencing violence at the hands of a domestic partner?
Well, many people, and I even see some comments coming up saying that the court will not protect men in family law situations. Family law does not protect men. In addition to that, a lot of issues is men are taught to be men. So they're not supposed to basically cower away from people. A lot of times women are smaller than men. So if a man comes out and say, hey, my woman is physically harming me, a lot of people look at them crazy, like, you can't restrain her, you can't do anything to stop her. She doesn't, another thing that comes up is she doesn't respect you enough not to do those things to you. So a lot of men, I believe, feel like they're going to be judged if they do try to come out as a survivor of domestic violence or try to get some type of help. In addition to that, there are not a lot of resources for men. For women, there are shelters, there are programs that help them get attorneys, like the Weave Shelter, anything. There are a lot of programs for women, but I have not seen a lot of programs to protect men because I think that men have been taught to be protectors. So why do they need protection? And I'm not sure of the exact reason why every man doesn't come forward, but I know a lot of them do not come forward because they do not think that they can get help. And if they do think that they can get help, they think that people are going to judge them for not being able to control or defend themselves against a woman.
Yeah, that's very true, and I would agree. And you guys can drop comments in the chat as well with your personal experiences and anecdotal thoughts. Thank you again. Just want to welcome. I see a bunch of new people have come on. This is Suzette Speaks a long time alongside Boss Attorney Bri, talking a very serious topic today. Again, hit the like button as you come in, please, as we are grateful to have her here as she talks about her experiences as a family lawyer. She also does trademark, located out in Cali with a YouTube channel. Girl, you sound busy like me. And
Crazy.
I'm grateful that through her experience in coming from the family law side, there's the criminal side and the family law side when you deal with domestic violence issues. She can kind of paint the picture for us. Let's talk a little bit about celebrity cases that we've heard in the last, say, 6 months. I'm thinking it wasn't really domestic violence. When I was trying to think about false accusations being made against people and things like that. I was thinking about the Chris Brown case. Are you familiar with that? Where a woman came forward and said, he had done against her will things to her when she was on a yacht. Then come to find out, text messages were sent where she was, hey, can't wait to do it again, and all kinds of things. So false accusations being one issue, but there are so many cases that are out there right now. I know I've listened to both Johnny Depp and Amber Heard's, other people as well. We've been talking on my channel about, Will and Jada Smith. So where can you pick up in terms of what you're seeing as far as the models of what could possibly be viewed as male domestic violence survivors or victims? And what tell us what you think about some of those current cases in the news.
Yeah, so I would also throw in Rob Kardashian and Black China. It might have been a little bit further than 6 months or
Yeah,
so ago,
yeah, yeah,
but they recently just had a case that closed out with the sisters. But there's also a case between Black China and Rob Kardashian for domestic violence, of Rob claiming that Black China was the one harming him, but there's also a claim that Rob was the one harming Black China. I think the
mhm,
biggest case going on right now with it is the Johnny Depp trial, which he is trying to show that Amber Heard defamed him by saying that she is a survivor of domestic violence, when in fact, in his experience, he believes that he is the survivor of domestic violence. So they're going back and forth on a defamation case, but a lot of information is coming out about actual domestic violence, because the jury is going to have to decide, was Amber Heard a victim of domestic violence? So we have to spill all the tea about what was going on. Could this possibly be domestic violence? Is she lying about this? So
yeah,
um, I think Johnny has come out with a lot of information of Amber Heard attacking him. I think that Amber has come out with a lot of allegations against Johnny Depp about his anger towards inanimate objects. And she's also had some testimony about whether he put his hands on her physically as well. That is a little bit more in question, I think, in the court of public opinion. But Amber Heard has admitted to hitting Johnny Depp. And I discussed this on Good Logic's channel yesterday, of Amber Heard saying, hey, I didn't punch you, I hit you. Don't be a baby. And so that's what a lot of men are dealing with. And I think that this case needed to come public so that we can see these different dynamics between relationships, of someone saying, I didn't punch you, I hit you. And it's almost like, well, what's the difference? You're attacking me, you're throwing pots and pans, but you say that you're not being abusive, but me yelling is abusive, which is another important point. There can be verbal, emotional, what they call disturbing the peace. There are different types of abuses. It does not necessarily mean that someone is putting their hands on you or throwing things at you or physically hurting you. So I think that is super important to note when we're talking about domestic violence as well.
yeah. Thank you. You bring up so many cases. Like, it's sad because I'm thinking about all these cases and I'm like, oh yeah, there's that one and there's that one. So celebrities are just regular people too, with a lot more money and people know their names. But some of the same issues that plague general society, obviously, we see among their ranks. Let's call it. So let's talk a little bit about. And I see some comments in the chat. Some of the stages that you just mentioned, because people, tend to think, if there are not, scratch marks, or if there is not, drawing blood, that so called slap. I didn't punch him, I slapped him. I've seen
Mhm.
such, even in public, just in here in Miami, I've seen sometimes some of the most disturbing interactions between men and women. And I keep thinking, even as I think about, and I forgot the case of I think he was an African immigrant who was
Yeah.
killed by, or deleted, excuse me, by his girlfriend. Like that
Yeah.
one also, it was just so off-putting thinking about the buildup, how friends had described the volatility of their relationship. Do you typically see that when you get folks who come in for family law issues, that it started off small and that it kind of grew?
Yeah, it's always one. Let's not say always, because we know always is never the answer, but majority of the time when people come in, it's verbal first, and then it escalates as time goes on, and it eventually leads to physical. So if you are in a situation where someone's always yelling at you, someone's always putting you down, you can almost expect for it to end up going to physical abuse. If you are finding that the things that they are saying to you verbally is offensive, it might lead to physical as well.
So definitely escalation, guys, is a very big indication if someone is not making you feel. And I find that with men, it's like making you feel inadequate all the time, putting you down, hyper critical of you, making you seem as if, emasculating you, especially in public and those type of settings. Guys, do not ignore this behavior. I know we tell ladies this all the time, but it needs to be said out loud for men too, because even in some of the videos I've been watching, just preparing for tonight, I've been thinking, man, this is a guy with, a degree, great corporate America job, all the right boxes checked. And then when you look at the scenario, it's his wife. He wants to please her. He wants to, do things that will help make his family, happy. But I saw scenarios where women were constantly setting up men for situations where the men could not be successful, just so they could criticize them and start this cycle of like, you've disappointed me, and kind of put them down. And as you said, oftentimes it went from that verbal and emotional abuse to direct physical abuse over time. And then after marriage, it can get worse. So
Oh yeah.
when do you so let's say, what does a guy do? So if a man is watching right now and is hearing some of these things into his situation, what would you recommend him start doing as far as understanding his rights when it comes to the court? Because I keep seeing in the comments, the courts don't care about men. There's nothing I can do. But if someone is truly a victim listening, what would you recommend be step one?
Right. So I would say, let's say it's not to the physical aspect yet, but she's constantly saying things to you that are offensive, that are putting you down, maybe diminishing your value, saying your job's not good, or anything that is basically, I know it sounds trivial, but hurting your feelings. If she's constantly hurting your feelings, I would start to write things down, the date, the time, what was said, and what was the context of what was said, and continue to have that document in a place where the person cannot access it, so that they don't throw it away, delete it, however you're saving it. Just make sure you have it in a safe location. If it begins to get physical, I know, especially being a Black people, especially to Black men, we do not want to call the police, right? We want to keep them out of it because we don't know what could happen with the police. But sometimes it may be, if you don't call the police that day necessarily, you should still call and make a report of something happening. If you are too afraid to call and make a report of what is happening, go ahead and keep your own log along with those verbal abuses. Go ahead and write what physical abuses happened. She slapped me, open hand, it didn't leave a mark. She slapped me, closed fist, or she punched me, closed fist, it left a bruise under my eye. Take a picture of it. So just keep any documentation that you can to have dates, times, and what context the incident happened under, so that when it does come time for you to go to court, you have it all already written down.
Awesome. So we're gonna read a couple comments, guys, and if you guys have questions, I'm gonna drop the link in just a few. So when I hear what I hear you saying is that making sure it's documented, making
Mhm.
sure if and when something God forbid, like this begins happening, you want to make sure you tell somebody or you document it. Because I think a lot of times, even if it's your homeboy, even if it's, someone at work, or they'll tell people, write it on a calendar today, scratch mark from all the things that she just mentioned. Because oftentimes I think we minimize things, especially in a culture that wants to push, machismo and men being able to quote handle her or handle your own. And there's a shame and embarrassment around it that oftentimes perpetrators will use so that you do not come forward. And then there's that cycle of I'm sorry and I love you and I just didn't mean it. And I have fill in the blank. I just have the cycle of abuse is actually, there's an actual a wheel of abuse that they study and show that it's kind of like this perpetual, I'm sorry, okay, you forgive her, and now you're back to square one, and the abuse starts over and over. But the thing is, it escalates. So
Right.
making sure that you document. Would you like to add anything?
Oh no, I was just agreeing with
Yes.
you.
Okay. No, I'm just thinking about scenarios of people, and I don't do family law. And again, guys, this is not for legal advice. It is only intended for informational purposes. So if you have an issue, you need to contact an attorney directly. So can men win this type of claim? Because I see it very prominent in the chat, and I'm sure there are those who are out there like, wait a minute, you telling me to go tell? And oftentimes you hear if a man calls, they'll remove the man from the house.
Mhm.
And then you think about, I won't be able to see my kids, or now, may someone possibly make a false claim against me and say, oh no, he hit first. And of course, when police and law enforcement hear that, they have to, react a certain way. So in those type of scenarios, can a man successfully make this type of claim without being in fear of his own life or freedom?
Yes, I really feel like that depends, honestly, because you're right. When cops come to the location and someone says, oh, this person hit me, well, this person hit me first, they're usually going to take the person that does not have bruises. So let's say she started hitting you first and she just happened not to leave any marks on you. But you grab her by the arms and now all of a sudden she has bruising on her arm, then you could be in trouble. So I know it's a hard thing when someone's attacking you, just not to do anything, put your hands up, start recording if you have to start recording. And that way you can feel a little safer with filing the police report or calling the police to come and take the woman away. But if you're in a situation where you decide not to call the police, like I said, have that recording, have it written down. And yes, it is possible for men to win these types of cases. And like I said, I'm talking about it in the context of family law. I'm not all the way familiar with how the criminal
On the
law
criminal law side. Okay, so just on the
Mhm.
family law hat. Thank you for making that
Right.
distinction. Yes.
Right. And so, depending on your state, your restraining order could last a certain amount of time. I know here in California, it can last up to 5 years. And the way that you get it done is to have proof. And it's not a super hard task to show, hey, this person hit me here. They did this. Look at me. Here's a video of her attacking me, and I'm not doing anything. I'm not saying anything. I'm trying to leave. She won't let me leave. But if you don't have any proof, anything written down, any notes from that time where you were in that state of mind, any video recordings, any pictures, then yes, it will be very hard for you to win. But if you have those notes from your state of mind, some pictures, some videos, some text messages, you will be surprised how many times text messages come up to prove that someone is being verbally abusive to someone, or someone admitting, like, yeah, I hit you, and what are you going to do, in a text message. That will generally help you. So, yes, it is possible to win the case. You just need the proof to show the court that, hey, this person is capable of doing this thing to me.
Awesome. And I'm thinking about legal questions, and I know I can't get too deep into the law because again, guys, this is just general information that we're sharing tonight. And again, if you have an issue involving domestic violence, you need to speak with someone specifically. Go to an attorney in your state
Yeah.
because she's licensed out in Cali. I'm licensed in Florida, but we're not giving legal advice tonight. You got to be very specific and meet with an attorney one on one in order to analyze your legal issue so that they can properly advise you specifically on anything that you are experiencing. So I'm going to do a quick reset. Guest today is Boss Attorney Bri. Y'all see why she a boss though? You see why she's a boss? Go check out her channel. She is a practitioner out in Cali, combining East Coast, West Coast today. I'm in Miami. All new subs. Thank you for being being here. And of course, check out her channel because she does this in terms of focusing directly on law and legal issues when it comes to celebrity cases and such. So she's doing a wonderful job talking about a very difficult topic from a family lawyer point of view. Again, not from a criminal law point of view, from dealing in the family courts, which is custody, which is visitation, which are family law legal issues. So we got to make that distinction. This is not about, a criminal viewpoint of this type of issue, right?
Yes,
So we've
exactly.
talked a little bit about what men can do to be successful when and unfortunately if this does occur. So that is to document, that is to make sure you're taking contemporaneous notes. You'll hear lawyers talk about this, which is, as she called it, presence of mind, as it's happening, right after it happened, as something is going on, you sending a text to someone, you writing it down at your work calendar, you doing something where it's documenting it almost as if it were just, almost as if it had just occurred, is admissible. I'm using that in quotes. It depends on your specific case, but it can be helpful. It can be helpful
Mhm.
for you to step forward, right? So
Yes.
documentation is key. I see in the chat they're like, get your phone out, brothers, all of that. But that is very important. Now, when it comes to the issue of, and I'm going to drop the link shortly, guys, the issue of restraining orders, because when you hear a lot of, from the perspective of women as victims, get a restraining order. I feel I have several different feelings towards restraining orders, but there are men that may need one, men that may want to consider one. First, can you describe what a restraining order does? Again, it varies from state to state, but in general, they have the same function. What does a restraining order provide?
Yes, the restraining order is supposed to provide you with protection from whoever it is you're trying to get protection from. In this instance, we're talking about your domestic partner, your wife, your partner, whoever you're in a relationship with. It's supposed to provide protection. And I have some feelings about that, as well as it's a piece of paper. Yes, we understand it's a piece of paper, but it does give you the right to kind of exclude that person from being around you. If they violate this restraining order, you are able to call the cops, and the cops will arrest them and will take them to jail and probably will have charges pressed against them. I know this piece of paper cannot protect you in the instant moment, but at least it does give you that right. Unfortunately, in my opinion, there's really nothing that can protect you in that exact instance when something's happening. You just kind of have to try to get away from it, but at least that restraining order does provide a little bit more protection. Another thing that it does is it shows up, or it's filed with the police department. Depending on your jurisdiction, I'm not sure about everywhere, but in California, it's filed with the police department. It can pop up on your background checks and things like that. So it will make people less likely to want to violate that restraining order, because I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to go to jail, and I don't think anybody else wants to go to jail. So when that restraining order is in place, most people will not violate it, but I am also aware that there are some people that will push the limits and might violate that thing. But yes, it's there to provide you with that extra protection, to kind of have that person accountable, and to allow the cops to not really need to ask any questions and just take that person away from you if they violate it.
Yeah, again, we are going to say go and speak to an attorney directly because it's a case by case basis when it comes to restraining orders. I would just say factors you probably want to discuss with an attorney is know who you're dealing with,
Mm-hmm.
know the tendencies of that other person, because it is in fact a piece of paper that must be enforced by law enforcement, but law enforcement got to get to you
Right.
to enforce it. So know the tendencies and the possibilities with that domestic partner, because that's a lot of time when people file paperwork. And again, I may be speaking more anecdotally from what I've seen, is when the other partner is like triggered to do even more damage and go a little bit more crazy. So you have to, on top of that, have your, I don't want to say escape plan, but have a
Yeah.
secondary backup plan for what happens if you come home and all breaks loose. You know what I'm saying? So when you're doing this, that's why it's good to have, counseling. It's good to have an advocate. There are a lot of programs in the courts, in and out of the courts that allow for people to like stand with you and help you get the courage to step out of something that you really need to leave. But I do want to say sometimes when it comes to restraining orders, you just have to be very prepared. And I'll leave it
Yes.
like that because people get a like, how dare you attitude. And that's when a lot of people experience the most difficult um, um, sides of their partner's personality. I'll leave it there. I've dropped the link, especially my guys. I want my guys to come up and speak on this topic. We got boss attorney Bri in the building, fantastic attorney out from Cali, joining me tonight. Thank her for being here. I appreciate her coming through and using some of her expertise tonight just to talk about, information when it comes to men and domestic violence. We're trying to break a little bit of the stigma tonight, give folks some food for thought. If you're experiencing this again, we ask that you see a legal practitioner in your state so that you can get help if you so need it. So, documenting abuse, we've talked a little bit about. We've also talked about what to do in terms of telling other people. Restraining orders could be a solution, but again, check with your local bar if you need an attorney recommendation or someone in your area that can help you. But the stereotypes I think are the most difficult things to break. I think there are a lot of people that still, even if we say, guys, call the police, tell, do something, show the scratch, make sure you take a picture of it, they're going to feel a sense of stigma and weakness. And I see you in the back, DL. Thank you for coming up. There are so many parts of their stories that involve covering it up.
Yep.
Men are not supposed to experience this. Men are supposed to be strong. And there is a lot of the stigma is real because I think even in our churches, I'm trying to think like if I were a guy and hey, the Miss Creative, and I was trying to figure out where to start as a person to talk to and how to talk to them about it. I think even in some of the most supported spaces, I think there is a lot of lack of understanding, lack of knowledge around what this looks like and how it is to be handled. So what are your comments on that? Where are some safe spaces? Obviously, an attorney would be a great resource for many people. DL, are you ready? I'm gonna bring you up. But where do we start when it comes to? I'm not sure if this is domestic violence. I'm not sure if I want to take it to the cops. I'm not sure if I want to go that far because I'm a man. It's a part of what, especially within our community, the contemplation is. Where would you suggest a person start if they weren't sure if they wanted to take this further?
Right. If you don't feel like you have anyone close to you in your family that you can talk to, of course, talking to a lawyer could be a good step. A lot of lawyers have free initial consultations. I'm honestly not too sure of too many programs that specifically help men, but
Mm-hmm.
a way to find those resources within your community would to go ahead and do a Google search to find it. I know a
Yeah,
lot of people do have that safe space in church that they can go ahead and talk to maybe a pastor or someone else within the church. And another thing that you can potentially do is to get your own personal therapist. Talk to your therapist about it, and generally they can give you information about where you should contact, where you should go in order to kind of save yourself from the situation. And they may still lead you down the path to calling an attorney or making a police report. But just kind of talk to those trusted professionals that are there to help you and not to judge you. So
absolutely. So we're going to bring up a guest, Boss Attorney Bri in the building. Thank you so much for helping me pull back the curtain on some of these issues. And I'm going to ask you a little bit more about, and I know you cannot share names, and of course, confidentiality is huge, but I'm sure if you've seen a case already resolved or, can demonstrate, some of the processes you've seen, maybe a past client take. I would love to get your take on things in real life. And again, guys, she's out in Cali. So how she's seen things play out when it has come to maybe a male client or the opposing counsel having the male client and seeing how, things were resolved in family court. But DL, how are you? Good to see you, brother. What's going on?
Hey, what's good? Thanks for having me. How y'all doing tonight?
We're
good. How are you?
good. He's a regular here, Boss Attorney Bri. Well, forgive him if he seems very, at home, but he He's like I said, he did a great job. I can't thank you enough for coming on the night of the KS, craziness and rumors and all that, and helped me through that show tremendously. So I thank you, brother.
You're
How you
welcome anytime. That was a pleasure. That was a pleasure. It was fun. We were like our own little ghetto CNN over here on Suzette
doing?
Speaks. It was fun.
We try, but lots of people watched it. So I'm grateful to have you even on again tonight. So I know this is probably a topic that you have a lot to say. So what are some of your thoughts?
I had a couple things to say. But I mean, I'm online right now. Like male domestic abuse shelters in my area. You get a
Mhm.
phone number. You know what I mean? So it's just not those resources don't seem to be there
100%.
for
Yeah.
men. And then it ties back into the way we were raised. I'm an older guy. I'm sorry if one of my guys came up to me saying that his girlfriend he's abused by a girl. I'm sorry, I gotta laugh at him, man. Like, what are you doing? You're bigger, you're stronger. Why didn't you just get out the way? You're faster. Like, there's no
Yeah, this is
reason.
the problem. This is the problem. This
There's no
is the
reason she could
problem.
put it.
Not judging you, but this is an indication of the problem.
And just
Absolutely.
being honest about it. Like, come on, bro, for real. And that's how when the law enforcement rolls up, that's in the back of their mind. And
Yeah.
if you don't have any proof as to what happened, thank God for cell phones and these high definition cameras or whatever we got in there, because I can't tell you how many times I've seen guys taken away because some woman hit herself, called the police and said that the guy did it. And or some like she's upset about something and she calls the police and the police take her away. Now I will say this: in Ohio, if the police came on domestic violence calls, it was a point where they would take both people away. They didn't even ask questions. So I mean, I
Mm.
don't know how it is in different states and different counties and this, that, and the other, but this is a tough one. I ain't gonna lie to you. It's hard to be a man and be like, hey, I'm a victim of anything, really.
Hmm. Definitely. What do you think about that social construct, social pressure, boss attorney Bree? Do you see that a lot when you are dealing with either clients or on the opposite side of folks in the family law scenarios that we've been talking about? Do you see a hesitation sometimes from clients to really be forthright or want to bring that into a case?
Yes, that is pretty much the excuse that a lot of men have as well, is that, I shouldn't be getting harmed by this small person. But sometimes people are small and mighty. They might be fast, you never know.
Tear
But
you up, scratch up your face. Yeah, I've seen it.
right.
I've seen it.
Mhm. Right. And so that's why it's very important, like I said, to uh, do the document. And I get the paper might not help you when the cops come. That's when you have to take out the camera and record. And hopefully that could de-escalate the situation in itself. But I have had clients where the woman is the one taken away because when the cops arrive, she's still feisty. So it's definitely possible. And that's why I said, hey, put your hands up. I know no one wants to be hit, but if you for some reason leave any marks on her, it can definitely jeopardize you into being the one taken away.
Yes, I think about that because I've seen scenarios where men are trying to hold a woman back, and in
Mm-hmm.
doing so, they accidentally, like, you know, I don't want to say pop her wrist, but injure her, pull her shoulder out of socket or something, and then that unfortunately becomes an issue. Like it's like now an incident where you have caused harm as well. TTO, you make a good point here. I kind of encourage people to do this in all scenarios, especially as people of color. Think about how the cop that is most likely, because the majority of police departments are Caucasian men, uh, who is coming up on the scene, doesn't know you, doesn't understand the cultural nuance, doesn't understand what's happening. How are they going to perceive what's going on? I take that attitude, me personally. I'm not telling you to. Me personally, in any situation, I think if I call a cop on this black guy, what are they going to perceive in this situation?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it is very complex for us. We can't deny this, that we do have to think, I don't want to share this guy's, I can't share this guy's scenario, but he thought he was calling the cops on, definitely it happened to be a white female who was breaking the law. And he thought, as a grown 6'4", former football playing man, that when he called the cops, they was gonna see his side and clearly enforce what the writ, the document said. Oh no, oh no, it was flipped on him. And as soon as this woman said she was afraid, tables turned quick. And he fought that case for I don't know how long, well over a year, maybe 2 years. I think it just got off his record. And I thought to myself, man, this hurts me so much. Like, how do we avoid this? How can we address this? Like, again, you pick up that phone and you know what's going on. But the person who's making the judgment call as the law does not know what's going on. You know what transpired in your kitchen. You know what she said. But what's going to happen when them people come? You think she going to tell them what exactly happened?
Like
9 times out of 10, no, she's going to try to make herself the victim or, endangered, let's say. So this is a real issue. And that's why it's like kind of case by case, what you think is best, because you must think about this no matter who you are, just as a general statement, just anyone who is involved in this type of scenario really must think about how it will look. But obviously weighing that against the importance of putting an end to someone creating chaos and hurting you at the same time. What you want to add to that deal?
well, I was making light at first because that's how I thought initially. But the reason I'm here is because I thought about it. I'm like, you know what, this is a really good conversation. Two cases come to mind. The baby being one. When he had that situation where he was trying to get his partner or whatever out, and
Yeah,
he
out of
had
his house, and she
out of
wouldn't
his house.
leave.
She wouldn't leave.
Yes, and
And
going crazy at the same time. His child's mother.
yes.
Yes, yes,
And
yes.
imagine if he didn't have that video. One, and you already touched on another one to kind of to tag along with that with the Chris Brown thing, and they had the text messages. But in Miami, again, your city, there was that case with the Caucasian woman got a knife and ended her
Yes,
live-in boyfriend,
yes.
who, by the way, has yet to be indicted for that crime.
She's still walking free.
She's still
Mm-mm,
walking free. So
mm-mm.
you have to take that in consideration as a man. Like, again, this is just speculation, but that doesn't happen just like that. That builds up to where a person grabs a deadly weapon and commits such a heinous act to
Oh
where
yes.
she's covered
Hmm.
in blood and whatnot. That man, that brother who was solid, allowed it to happen, hey, step back. So I tell people all the time, if you get into a situation, like, hey, Brother Saint doesn't argue with nobody. You get into a situation, I'm leaving. I'm
Hmm.
leaving. I'm gonna turn my phone on. I'm getting out the house. There guys are like, oh, she wouldn't let me leave. Bro, I ain't trying to hear that. I ain't trying to hear
Listen,
that.
yeah,
You got to separate
even
yourself.
if you're not at fault, sometimes it's just the best thing to do is leave your own house. And I get how people feel about that, and they feel some type of way, and they
Mhm.
like, but this my house. I pay these bills, and I get it. But sometimes, especially when things escalate, it doesn't make sense you trying to convince someone or put yourself in danger to try to be right.
Yeah.
Oftentimes,
And
leaving and then coming back. Go ahead. Hmm.
the last thing too, ladies, I understand, like, everybody's equal, but you got to understand we're different. Men can kill you with these, ladies,
Hmm.
with
Hmm.
their
Mhm.
Yeah,
hands.
absolutely,
There
absolutely.
are men out there
That can
who,
delete you. Yes, delete
yes,
you. Hmm.
delete you with these. They are waiting for the opportunity to defend themselves. So, ladies, be careful going
Hmm.
out here getting big on the wrong guy, because he might have his buddy over there with the camera. The camera shows that you assaulted him, and then he's waiting for that opportunity to throw that right, to throw that left. It's only gonna take one, and it's all she wrote. So, ladies, y'all need to be careful out there too.
Yeah, I see it. Simon Hectic, I miss you. I saw you over on Gail's channel. I'll bring you up in just a second. This is Suzette Speaks here alongside Boss Attorney Bri with DL Saint, adding his wonderful commentary on a topic that oftentimes goes unspoken about. And that's why we're speaking about it to now. Male survivors of domestic violence, what it looks like, what it sounds like, what you can do about it. I'm glad that you're here. Appreciate you, Boss Attorney Bri, for spending time here on the Suzette Speak Show. Y'all could do us a favor, hit the like, comment, share. Simon, I see you. Thank you very much. I'm gonna bring you up now. Where you been, first of all, my friend? How are you, Simon?
How you been?
I
All right.
missed you.
Oh my God! That's nice to hear.
No,
That's
I'm
nice to hear.
serious. I see you on other people's channel. I get a little bit of jealousy. So
I,
anyway,
I had a bit of COVID, man.
oh, you did, but you're good
Yeah,
now.
I think so.
Oh,
You don't know. You don't know how it goes. It's
for
like
real.
we
All the
will
way
be.
from the UK. I feel very honored to have you here. I see you busy in the chat, so I won't delay you. What are some of your thoughts on the discussion tonight?
Yeah. So the thing is like the I don't know why I hesitated slightly is because I've witnessed it and been part of it. Like I've had that experience in terms of like being abused but you don't know that it's abused because you're a man. Like so like to have a woman abuse you, you're like a bit confused.
Yeah,
It's
you're like,
almost
wait
like
a minute, what's going on?
it's like is she abusing me? Is she hit me? What it's like what's going on? Like
Yeah,
because
it's confusing. I'm sure a lot of men
male
feel like that the
counterparts
first time
deal
it
with
happens,
things in different
especially.
ways.
Yeah.
It's like right, like they'll just go at you, so it's a full on fight. But when women sort of come at you, they're like they're throwing some sort of magic but in the same time as sort of like um you know whipping you up. It's sort of like crazy. So the first time
Well,
I experienced it, I was
you're
just like,
absolutely right. I was gonna
wow.
say there's a different nuance to it. I know we have a slight delay, so I don't mean to be cutting you off. But yeah, there's a different nuance to it, especially in
Mhm.
romantic relationships, where it's like, is it playful? Am I supposed to react to this a certain way? And it can easily kind of be camouflaged for really what it is, from really what it is. But go ahead, my brother, continue, please. Simon, on you. Go ahead. Can you hear me?
Yeah, no, I thought you said Morella.
No, no, no. No, go ahead. You were talking about being involved in yourself firsthand.
Yeah, no, I was just giving a like anecdotal sort of experience in terms of like I was in a relationship where someone actually threw some fists and all that sort of stuff and was kind of crazy. Uh, Crazy is a short word, I guess. And I didn't really know what that was or why they did it, and I had to sort of think about it retrospectively, um, and to that, I came to the conclusion that she sort had some sort of thing that she was going through previously, because I wasn't that guy. But she was treating me like that guy.
Mm, mm. So yeah, I do think a lot of it, and it's not to excuse it, but when people come from trauma that is unhealed, they repeat it oftentimes. They think it's you, and like you said, it wasn't you, but they were kind of trapped in that cycle mentally. And I love what Harrison Family Values. Thank you so much for being here. Says it's not just physical; it's emotional and mental. We did start the conversation with that. Thank you, Harrison Family Values. That this thing doesn't just pop up with hit them with a left, hit them with a right. No, it starts with the emotional abuse, the ignoring, the putting one down, using of slights, and kind of conditioning one to think. It tries to rob you of your confidence. It is supposed to kind of put you off balance and question yourself. Am I good enough? So that they can, go further and further with you. I agree with you 100%, Harrison Family Values. Women have been the abuser, then accuse the man of being abusing as a means to continue the abuse. DL, you wanted to make a comment?
Well, I'm just curious how it is on the other side of the pond over there with our brother from the UK, Simon. When law enforcement arrives, I understand that they're not armed, but what normally happens when they roll up on a potential domestic violence call? And like, what have you witnessed?
You don't need arms. Like, I'll tell you that. And I guess No, that's a really, really good question, and it's a really good thing that you asked that, because you don't need arms. Like, um, when they roll up, they'll take you out. And the fact is you could be in one situation in 1 second, and another situation in another second, and that means, where are your children? Where do they
Mm.
go? Who your loved ones? What do they know? Your mobile snatched. No one knows where you are. All of a sudden, you've disappeared. So no one wants to be in that situation, whether there's arms or not. The arms do not provide a means to an end.
Mm.
Right.
The thing
And I
is,
think you might misunderstand my question, brother. Like, I'm not, it's not respect to the weapons, but um in here in the United States, like we were saying earlier, if law enforcement shows up to a domestic violence call, just making up numbers here, but probably 85% of the time the man is going to be taken away. Is that something similar in the UK?
But what he was also addressing, DL, is from what I understood, is how it's not like here where you get a first appearance the next morning and you get a call or a phone call. You were like almost, it sounds almost like disappeared. If I'm interpreting what you're saying, Simon, that you were gone, your family don't even know where you are at the first, however long in the UK, and then you kind of get into the process. That's scary. That's scary from what I think he's describing. But do they tend to side more with women? I guess is more DL's question, if police are called.
yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those ones. It's like, because we have this sort of conversation about women and men, but the thing is like, when you're whether it probably, it leans more towards, like, you're as a man, uh, it's a bit more touchy, but inevitably, if you're in a law enforcement situation, it's a law enforcement situation, and you'll get snatched. It's just
That's what he's saying. Whether
it's
you
the
know
end
they
of the
work on
day.
you, and whether you don't, they gonna take you up, and that's a whole nother animal. I was reading the numbers in the United States. I think, and Boss Attorney Bri, please correct me. I heard or I read today, 85% of domestic violence victims in the U.S. are women. 15% is a significant amount of other. You know what I'm saying? And in the UK, it was like 75% are women. So that means 25%, from what I read in the UK, are other. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, that's actually, it doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a lot. 15% of any population is a lot. That's the amount of black folks they say is in the US. You know
Right.
what I'm saying?
It's
So
not a lot of there's not a lot of black people in the UK.
no, I okay.
In
No,
comparison.
no, I know there's not. You guys are less than what, 2-3% of the whole entire UK. Black diaspora folks living. Y'all must all live in London. Don't get offended, but I'm just saying, you guys,
No, you're right. You're right.
you see all these black folks in London, but majority of UK, like your numbers and our numbers here are just totally different. Like majority of UK,
It's like any sort of main city.
yeah.
You
So
know,
you guys,
like,
you overrepresented one place and then underrepresented almost everywhere else in the country. Nonetheless, but thinking about that, back to the numbers in terms of how many are women versus men. The number I read, and you can correct me, Boss Attorney Bri, was a 15%. Then are other not women, and then UK, I read, I think I listened to a podcast that said 25%. I thought that is a high number that in their lifetime will experience domestic partner violence. That's a high number. And we don't
Yeah.
really have the resources, as DL pointed out. What are your comments, Boss Attorney Bri?
I think a lot of it is because men do not typically report. I see a lot of situations where there has been some type of altercation. The cops are called. They ask the man if they want the woman to go to jail because the cops have found that the woman was the perpetrator. And the man will say, no, I don't want to press charges. No, I don't want to report it. So I think that's one of the biggest issues, is that a man doesn't want to actually put the statistic in there and report it. I would assume that the amount of men that experience it is a lot higher than that, but a lot of them just don't report it because they may not want to seem soft. They may not want their woman to go through something like jail or something of that nature. But I think the bigger problem is they're not reporting it. I think another issue with DV is that a lot of times, and I know a lot of people don't like this term, a lot of times it's mutual. It's not just one person coming after the other person. Sometimes it's full on brawls. So it's kind of hard to even make that report if it's kind of both of you going back and forth, and the cop decides to take one or both of you to jail or none of you to jail. So a lot of times neither party calls because they both know they were fighting. So
wow. So yeah, so oftentimes there's more than one person. Both are culpable. Let's use a legal term in some to some degree. And so you have, but he started it, but then you hit him back, or she started, then you choked her. Like somebody ended up in retaliation doing something just as culpable as someone who started it and really was the perpetrator initially. So that's really, I think, people don't like to talk about that for sure.
Yeah, Mr. Untouchable has a good statement in the chat. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, let me go ahead. Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
But Mr. Untouchable was saying that I mean, his question is, what do you do when women physically tries to abuse you? Do you walk away? Do you respond? Do you call the police? That's a good question. I mean, I'm curious.
It depends. Is the attorney answer now? We can't give legal advice. Salute to the lead attorney. We got our brother in the law here, and we're trying to do a little work over here. Lee, good to see you, brother. I got the tail end of your stream today. I'll go back, even though I can't always catch you live. I'll be watching the replay. So salute to my big brother in the space, the lead attorney himself here. Glad you are joining us, sir. Yes. TTO says yes. Y'all tear down stuff. Bri looks so young, but Bri got this. Yes, thank you. Black no crack. Hey.
I'm just curious what to do. What brothers in the chat? What would you do? Would you walk away, or would you call the police? Like, I guess like a 1 if you would walk away, and a 2 if you would call the police.
Yeah, I love how DL, see how comfortable DL come over here running things.
Get the chat moving.
Okay.
I'm curious.
Take these directions. Thank you, DL. Tiffany Nicole Welcome says, I still think you should call the police. Yes, I saw a couple other comments. A new person I just saw, Coffee. I can't see the name. I'm sure you'll pop back up. But that's why I'm reading some of the chat, not all of the chat tonight, because I got to get in the habit. It's moving too fast, and y'all, we're growing. So that's a good problem to have. Yes, Jeremy says there are a big difference between the UK and the US for sure. You would need arms in Atlanta. Lee, this is a serious topic. I'm not going to laugh. Lee, this is serious. But I hear you. For real. Hey, Mona. Nice to see you. Jane Doe talks about R. Kelly and his accuser. And I want to talk to you about that too, Boss Attorney Bri. What can men do if people end up, say there is not mutual culpability, and people make false reports? This is a part of life. Right? People come in and say, because you made a report, I'm going to come in and just try to top that. And as you say, family courts, child custody cases, this is very common. Oh, no, you say what? I'm going to say something. And it's the craziest thing. And I've heard people, and I don't practice family law, but I've heard people with sad stories of like, my ex is now saying this happened, and all kinds of allegations, from abuse of the new boyfriend to all kind. They throw everything at the other person. What can be done? And I'm gonna get to your the 1s and the 2s in the chat, DL. But I do want to touch on, and maybe I'll go with that first. I want to stick a pin in that. Don't forget about like what to do if you are falsely accused of something that you're not, or there is a false report made against you. What do you do? But we'll start with DL's question. Yes, they say start recording. I hear you, Tiffany. Thank you. Let me see. 1s or 2s. No, don't throw them bows. Don't do any of that. Thank you, Miss Creative. 1 love XDMC. 1 walk away. Thank you, Andre. Good to see you. Call the police, says J Bones. TTOO says, and we just talked about this. It's iffy. But I don't like to involve the police with Black people unless it's a must, because, again, you have to view it from how the police officer arriving on the scene, seeing this chaos, what are they going to say? If I tell you the amount of cases where people regret it, although I know we need law enforcement, right? So, but you got to be very careful with what you say, how you handle yourself, or if you say anything at all. So these are real issues that, again, we can't give you legal advice. It's on a per case basis. But this is informational tonight. This is for discussion and entertainment purposes. So a lot of call the police, a lot of unless it's a must. TTO also, stop arresting us because of gender. Thank you, the Sandman. I see you. Yeah, a lot of people are like, and I've seen talks in preparation for tonight about that we just ascribe certain emotion to certain genders. This person being a man, you can't feel like this. This person being a woman, you can't feel like that. And that runs deep in our psyche as a society, for sure. So there are a lot of people that say they would. What was the one to call the police?
One was walk away, two was call the police.
Okay, two. We ain't see no twos. What are you seeing in your practice, Boss Attorney Bree and Simon? I'll let you comment on this as well in terms of how to, I don't know, make that judgment call. When to get law enforcement, when to record, when I know we got to speak in generalities here, but can you give us maybe even an anecdote about maybe a closed case that you've had when law
Yeah.
enforcement was involved?
Yeah, so usually I know it's not as favorable in our community, but the best thing to do if you're dealing with a family law case or even sometimes a criminal case is to call the police and have that police report. If you don't call the police to have them arrested, then you at least want to make a report the next day and say, hey, these things happened. We were able to de-escalate the situation just so that there's government documents that's written proof rather than you just writing notes in your notebook. I think you still should write notes in your notebook, but having that proof with the government that you reported it tends to be beneficial to people in family law cases. However, a lot of my cases is why I brought it up earlier is that a lot of times the combat is mutual. It's just a full-on brawl. A lot of people that have DV cases and family law cases tend to be on the more toxic side of relationships. And generally, it's not just one person that's innocent, that's just getting beat up a lot of times when I'm dealing with it. But I'm not sure if there are people who don't involve attorneys where they're just constantly being verbally abused, physically abused, and all of those things. Most of this time, it's both parties have done something that can make the other party look bad. And a lot of times there are mutual restraining orders. You can't go near this person and you can't go near that person because a lot of times it was a toxic relationship to begin with.
Yeah, I think again, sometimes these are patterns, learned patterns, developed patterns. A lot of times we are empathetic to people and we think we can help them with, outgrow this. And again, we cannot change individuals. Like what you see is what you get. And even though people promise to change, and even though people say they're going to change and not do it again, those type of things, it is very difficult for people to really remove themselves from, their past traumas. And if they're not getting that kind of therapy, and if they're not doing the kind of real work to heal, they're going to bring that to your household. And oftentimes people can fool you. Some people do not see it until after the I do. I'll put it out there. People are deceptive as heck. And sometimes I've heard of cases where people did not start getting abused until after they were married and things like this. So it's a real issue both for women, but tonight we're talking about the male survivors of domestic violence, what we can do about it, how we can help support them, what it looks like, and some things you want to consider. Again, as a show that is covering a very sensitive topic, we're not giving legal advice here tonight. Any information here is just for informational, educational purposes. If you have a specific issue, go talk to an attorney specifically where you live for specific help with a legal issue so that they can help you. This is not legal advice that we're rendering today, and viewer discretion is advised. I'm here with Boss Attorney Bri. She's helping us understand based on her practice as a family attorney. She also does trademark law, and she's a fantastic YouTuber. As I stated before, she's a trademark attorney, family lawyer, and YouTuber who talks big celebrity cases. So she's here tonight helping us unpack some very sensitive and almost too common issues related to male survivors of domestic violence, the stigma, what to do. And we've talked about, if you're team replay, hit the like button, please. We've talked about, possibilities of using restraining others and other mechanisms. But I was asking you, for some, again, the cases that you can talk about where, people got the police involved and it worked. As you said, you think oftentimes having that documentation helps, um, because it's, again, it's a government entity. And what I will point out, guys, and again, for informational purposes, sometimes when you make a report, you don't have to call the police. It can almost be almost like a citation. Like, it's
Mhm.
documented, the person doesn't even know you called. And but it's still a record with that governmental entity. Sometimes when incidents happen and people are like, do I call the police? I'm like, at least call them and make a record, make it's official as in terms of being a report. I don't know if you have a specific name for it in Cali, but in Miami you can call and make a just get a citation number. This person
Mhm.
threatened me this day, this time. I was very uncomfortable. I went back to work and this happened, blah, blah, blah. So it is documented, as well as what we've been talking about, which is make sure you have, you know, your phone out and other things that can show if the time comes, unfortunately, that, something happened that wasn't supposed to. What do you think about that? And can you give us examples of when police were helpful or even harmful in situations
Yeah.
like this?
Yeah, as far as you were talking about making that report that I say, even if the police do not come, make the report. It's generally called like a citizen's report
Yes.
over here in California.
Yes. Mhm.
Um, but I think that the police are helpful when they do make a determination, because they are making a determination. If you guys aren't familiar with accidents, generally, if you don't have a police report, it's very hard to get through insurance because there was no one there to make a determination. It's just kind of he say she say of what they call lay people or lay witnesses. I think it was their fault. I think it was this person's fault. I get so many stories of, oh, well, this person walked into the room and they just punched me. And then you talk to the next person, they say, well, I walked into the room and this person was waving a knife at my face, so I punched them. So there's always two sides of the story, and then there's the truth, and it's up to the judge to determine who they believe. But when you have that written report, it's more likely that the judge is going to believe you. Not just a written report, but also photos, videos, your own notes to show your state of mind during that time as well. And I'm not sure if I'm answering the question. I think I forgot the question, Suzette.
No, you're doing great. And I'm reading the comments myself. That can get distracting, but it's good to see what people are living in their real everyday lives. Thank you, Salmon. Says, I've been through all this mess. It's a mess being in a relationship with a violent partner. That's why we're talking about it, because we want to bring light to it and let people know that you're not the only ones and you don't have to suffer in silence with people who are abusive. DL and Simon, I'm going to bring you up in just a moment. This is the final call for the panel because I know Boss Attorney Bri has a certain amount of time here. So if anyone, like in this comment, wants to share their story about having to deal with this is the time. I'm going to drop the link one more time, especially for the gentleman who can come in and maybe testify and share what you're comfortable sharing. But join the conversation, join the chat. Whether you want to come up or whether you want to just be in the chat, I'm down. I can't read all the chat. Like I said, I'm getting kind of focus on the chat and not on the conversation nowadays. So I want you guys to come in and you can super chat or you can come on the panel. Those are what I'll focus on from now on, but I'll try to flash up as many as I can. Also note, tomorrow Courtney Michelle is in the building. Courtney Michelle will be here talking about what Kevin Samuels meant to her, 7 p.m. tomorrow. And then Wednesday, we're going to finish off with Kevin Samuels' assets and digital assets and who gets what now during his untimely, passing. What happens to all the YouTube videos and all the money generated? I see you in the back, Lamont 2X. Thank you for being here. So this is last call. The panel is closed. So if you want to come now, please, the link has been dropped. And if you want to share your personal story or ask a question of this fantastic attorney and YouTuber, Boss Attorney Bri, I appreciate again her sharing some of her expertise. Again, viewer discretion is advised, again, for informational purposes only. All right. So I was asking you about when police. I think that's one major area where everyone is freaked out. They're like, I ain't got to call the police on him. If the police called on for the man on the woman, I don't want to be that guy with this, showing weakness and all that. So have you seen in your experience, maybe in past cases, where it was darn helpful that a report was filed? It was darn helpful that there was evidence right? As we talked about just now, it doesn't have to be a police report. It could be like a citizen's report of something bad that happened to you, and that documentation being helpful. Can you give us an example for where that did serve a client well for you?
Yeah, so it was beneficial in the whole restraining order part of it. I know a lot of people don't like to go for restraining orders. Like Suzette said earlier, it could lead someone to really going off the rails. In other situations, it may really just not help because they're going to show up and do whatever they want, anyways. But there have been situations where someone called the police or this has happened multiple times. They've called the police, and believe it or not, the man is the one that called the police. And when they got there, they took the woman away. After that happening, the man was able to get a restraining order. In some situations, they didn't get a restraining order because the court found that maybe it was mutual or maybe it wasn't enough aggression there, maybe no restraining order. But then the male actually got custody of the children, because a lot of these instances that happen that I deal with, almost always children are involved. So even if you don't get a restraining order, just having that proof that this person is not a good person, this person was able to get custody of the children, and it was also ordered that the abuser, or the woman, in this case, that was the abuser, was required to go to anger management and parenting classes. So you may not get an arrest, or you may not get a restraining order, but you can potentially benefit your kids and also benefit that other person to get the help that they need and have it court ordered to them.
Yeah, so it can help, guys. Again, we got to be very careful within our community talking about when not to call police. And we want to also emphasize every situation is different. The back is full now, y'all. The back is closed. I have 4 gentlemen now. Let's go. We're going to do it round robin style. Again, when we pick topics, we hope they are, impactful. We hope they, not in the literal way hit home, but we hope it can be helpful to someone who is maybe experiencing this or knows someone who's experiencing this. So thank you, Boss Attorney Bri, for being here to enlighten us based on your own family law practice. Gentlemen, be ready to make your comments. I see Lamont in the back. The Sandman came up. Thank you. Simon Hector had to step away real quick, but be ready. My brother NDL is in the back, so I'm going to bring all of you up. As I stated, there are so many angles we could cover to this, but I do want to allow people to give their own personal stories or anecdotes where we can kind of put faces to it. Because again, we can say men, those men, somewhere, men. Y'all show some support for the stream. There's a Cash App if you can. Appreciate it. I am getting a sound machine. I'm so excited about Attorney Bri wanting one. I spoke to DL earlier about it. I'm like, I'm getting this. So it's looking good on the soundboard. And I appreciate every person that helps to make my streams possible just by watching and being a part of my community. I really don't take it lightly. Thank you, y'all. All right, so we're gonna bring up the gentleman. Are you ready, gentlemen? I'm gonna bring up first DL, and I'm gonna bring up the Sandman, and I'm gonna bring up Mr. Lamont. Hi, everyone.
Hey, how's
Good
it
evening. How are
going?
you?
I'm fantastic. Y'all got me in the dark tonight. Okay, I see you, sir. Thank you so
Yeah,
much. Let me get a
you
close up so that people can see you. Simon Hectic just messaged me in the backstage when you're ready to come up, brothers. So who wants to go first? Let me start with one of the brothers who has not commented. Oh no, go ahead, DL. Go ahead,
Well,
DL.
I just had a question for Boss Attorney. Are you in SoCal or where in California?
I'm in Northern
You're in
California.
Northern
I'm in the
California. Okay,
Sacramento area.
that's cool because I was going to ask you about that Van Nuys court because there's some stuff going on in there. I'm glad you're not down there. But the other thing I wanted to ask you, are there judges that are hostile to men or women? Like certain judges that you know will be hostile towards a man in these sort of instances or a woman? And if so, how do you deal with that?
I honestly believe that they try to be as neutral as possible, but in the court that I deal with mostly, they assign one particular judge to all DV cases for a certain amount of time. So they're hearing both men and women's story on a constant basis. It's not like all of the men ones get assigned to one judge and then women to the other judge. The judge that was sitting prior seemed to be a lot, not biased against whether it was man or a woman. I'm now dealing with a newer judge that I haven't dealt with because they assigned a new judge to that seat. So I'm interested to figure out if they are going to be biased. But from my experience, I haven't had any of the judges too biased. Most of the judges I deal with are biased against people without attorneys,
Yeah.
because people without attorneys cannot, in family law, they generally cannot control their emotions. And when talking to the attorney doesn't really have any emotions, so we're not losing our cool. A lot of times when someone is being accused of something, they're losing their cool, and the judges just do not. They have to go through their calendar, so a lot of times they don't deal with it. So if you're in a jurisdiction like mine, I always highly recommend, in family law cases, you get an attorney. Don't try to do it yourself, because a lot of times the judges will not listen to you.
Listen, lead attorney was just talking about this tonight. I caught the last 10 minutes of his stream, but he was bringing up that fact on the case that he discussed. He was just like, mm-mm. When I see a what they call pro se representing
Mhm.
self, pro se person step in, and I am the attorney on the other side, he's like, oh, easy work. It's
Done
not to
deal.
say that we don't respect them, their humanity, what they're going through, but it's an uneven scale at that point. The judge does
Mhm.
their best to try to help the pro se self-represented person, but they're not going to know the law like we know the law. They're not going to be able to come up with arguments. They're going to argue things that are not relevant to the
Yeah.
points that the judge wants to focus on. You telling me about this, sis, I've asked you about that, sir. And it just makes a kind of like, as she's saying, kind of like it goes off the rails quicker. So the judges have less, not always, the word is not patience, but
Mhm.
they are more apt, depending on your jurisdiction, to see things the way an attorney will lay it out much more clearly than where a pro se person will lay it out. So yeah, when you think about the access to your children, you think about
Yeah.
access to all these things. As Lee said today, think about putting it on a credit card and do what you got to do when you see if the other
Mhm.
person has an attorney, what's at stake. Thank you, Boss Attorney Bri. Who wants to go first? Sandman, I see your face. Go ahead. What are your comments tonight?
All
And
right.
welcome.
Firstly, thank you for having me. It's good to see you again, Suzette. It's very good.
Pleasure. Thanks for coming
And
up.
pleasure to meet you too, Bree, as well as you too, Brother DL Saint, and you too, Brother Lamont. I will try to be very careful here, so please allow me to disclaim this, that my experiences, I 100% disclaim, they are not meant to be an indictment against either law enforcement or the legal system. But my experiences were stereotypical in the extreme. While I appreciate the advice that I saw given up on the screen,
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you that none of it worked in my situation.
Mm-hmm. Tell us what happened.
Uh,
Mm.
no, the what worked in my situation was finally being pounded on enough to finally be able to walk away and learn to go to therapy. I've
Hold
done
on now. You
previous.
just said a lot, Mr. Sandman. Let me get a
Mhm.
little bit in your business. And I'm thankful that you have been, open and transparent by coming up. I don't want to go where you don't want to go. So I think people now, I'm like
It's
10,000 questions just came in my mind. So
it's
you were
okay.
in a situation where you were experiencing violence by a domestic partner.
Oh yes, couple of relationships in a row, and that's also what I need to disclaim too. That the common denominator in both those situations was me, and I had to
Mm-hmm.
realize that in the end. But that doesn't excuse violent behavior, nor is it meant to excuse violent behavior that was levied against me, for which I was blamed. you know, and it's, well, you should have done. Well, I did do all that. The advice on walking away, no, no. You'll
Tell
get
us what, in your experience, you wish you had done or that you did.
walk backwards and walk
Mm.
out the door. Uh, that way you have a chance to find the bug out bag that you learned from Lifetime that women needed to pack because you're a man who now needs to pack it.
Mm.
So basically, what I've learned from domestic violence, which still did not work for me in the end, but at least got me from being hurt worse in both
Mhm.
situations, was to learn from women's domestic violence techniques and to use the same techniques as I could, but from the perspective of knowing that I'm a man and knowing that I'm going to be looked at and judged as a man. You
You just said a
But-
lot, sir. Okay, so I need specifics if I may ask a couple questions. And again, you tell me where you're comfortable talking. It's again a public forum. So if you're not, I hear you.
100% 100% transparent.
Okay. So, and again, I appreciate the super chats, y'all. Showing love. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Sandy B. Law, let me acknowledge. Definitely agree with Boss Attorney Bri. She is going to be my guest, y'all, talking about Kevin Samuel's assets, digital assets, Wednesday at 7. So we have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday at 7. Y'all come through, okay? So thank you, Sandy. Definitely agree with Boss Attorney Bri that folks need to have an attorney. You don't know what you don't know when you go pro se. That means by yourself, self-represented to court. It can seem, daunting. I would, that as Lee say, look at your credit card and see what you need to do, especially when it comes to family law. There is a lot of upside to this, and Sandy knows she does probate and other areas of law. She's the co-host of the Learn Biz, the podcast. Drop your link, sis, in the chat too, so people can find you guys. But this is a very important statement. I've been in court against pro se litigants, and it's pulling teeth. And then you know what I realized, Boss Attorney Bri and Sandy B, you could back us up if you've experienced this, is that a lot of pro se people think you they attorney. Ma'am, I was hired by your husband. I am not here to explain the law to you. Like, people get it twisted, like, oh, you're the attorney for everybody. As Lee say, I'm not your attorney. I am the lead attorney. Like, people get so confused and it gets uncomfortable, and it's like, I can't meet with you. I'm here for this person. I'm not here to guide you. You could have made preparations. So it's very important to consider. Thank you, Sandy B. And I see you, Uncle Stu, old man on the block, showing love. Thank you, sir. Says, I can speak on this because I've been there. Wow. And I spoke on it on my platform too. I have children who also was there. This is another thing. We haven't even gotten to like impact of the children. Men have no help. Sorry. And I feel bad that, especially depends on when this experience was. I know that's a true statement. Like, as sad as it seems, even the resources, when I sat on the board of a domestic violence shelter, state certified shelter here in South Florida, help fundraise, help do educational kind of stuff with them. And it was, I'm like, did I ever see any men? I don't know if they even allow, like, I'm thinking back, this is a few years back, about where and who they served. And man, this is a sad statement, Uncle Stu, but I know you're keeping it real. You're keeping it 100. Appreciate the love, brother. I can't wait to have you on the show next month. Thank you, Uncle Stu, the old man on the block. Could one of my moderators please drop his channel and show some love? Thank you very much, Uncle Stu, for your support and your comment. So I'm asking the Sandman. I see you, sir, in the chat talking about you have lived this, and it's real. And I don't want other men to kind of I want them to be inspired, right? That, okay, I could be in this situation and not really even understand that's what I'm experiencing. So the Sandman, either time you said you were in 2 relationships that had the same kind of qualities to them, which was someone abusing your trust. Talk about what that abuse looked like, if you wouldn't mind, so we understand what you were experiencing.
Well, it's easier to, I should say this too. It's easier to isolate someone who is already someone who keeps to himself. So I learned that in hindsight as well. That it was my own nature that contributed to it. I mean, I'm a very extroverted person, but at the same time, very focused and oriented person too. And those traits also can make you vulnerable. The other thing too is this: it doesn't matter how big and strong you are. At 6'3", 265 pounds of pure muscle, I was at that time. Pure brain, pure muscle. None of it mattered. The old man on the block made very clear none of it mattered. Yes. The talking didn't matter. The kowtowing to her didn't matter. The pleading didn't matter. None of that mattered. In the end, the answer was just angry and hit you, or I'm sorry, it's my diagnosis and hit you. You know what I mean? But either
so
thing,
like hit you in the face, hit you on your body, scratch you. What was it like for you?
Punch in the face, scratches on the eyes, bitten on the chest, And this is what Bree said. Eventually, you do get into a point where it is a scuffle, because that particular scuffle right here that I'm describing was me leaving, and that was when it got to be this bad. Yeah, I don't recommend anybody be hanging off a 3-story balcony, because the person that's fighting you is trying to kill you to keep you from leaving. All right.
This is like, and I've seen this, and even on some, and I thank you for being so transparent, my brother. I've seen this on some even reality shows where the couples are playful, but one is literally biting the other, like teeth and everything biting. And I was just like, what in the world? People tolerate this, and it's not a victim blaming, but it's still kind of like shocking to see. What did that person experience? Were any of your partners, did they allude to stuff? And not to excuse it, I just want to know where it come from, because I'm a curious person. Were they raised in environments like that?
To my knowledge, no. But the thing that I want to bring the attention back to, like you said, it's not about victim blaming, but it is about understanding. Like when I talk to, especially when I talk to women, because I talk to women now more than I talk to men. My platform just seems to, that's just the way it grew organically, and so we can talk about these things sometimes between genders. And I've done a couple podcasts about this issue.
I want to check it out. I'm glad you're sharing that. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yes. Oh, that's quite all right, because it was hard to share. Certainly hard to share back in 2010 and 2012 when I experienced both of these. And it can be quite complicated. They were both friends. The one I dated in 2010, she passed away, and then the one I dated in 2012. We had all been friends in the very beginning, and we continued the friendship. We started getting together, and we went through the same thing. Looking back, it makes sense to me, but at the time, it didn't.
Were you going through a period of like low self-esteem or anything like that, as far as vulnerability?
Oh, yes.
That you were a loner anyway. Were you kind of vulnerable in that way as well?
Extreme. Vulnerable in the extreme. I mean, didn't know how to put up a boundary except anger. But my kind of anger at that time was reserved for other men, never towards women. And so for it to come from women was a shock to me too. But what wasn't a shock to me was that the same activity that I was accepting from women was the same activity I accepted from my mother, until I stood up for myself.
Wow.
So it's a very complex issue.
Yeah, there's a lot going on from their perspective and from your perspective. And again, thank God you had developed the strength, and I want to ask you about that. I'm going to let Lamont.
And may I? I'm sorry, Matt, because this is an important part too. Eventually, I had to finally physically defend myself. When I was hanging off of a 3rd floor balcony, and I had to pull myself up. In the meantime, I've got fingernails in my eyes and a mouth attached to my chest. I finally karate kicked in, heel strike to the chin, which is a KO blow. And I carried her back into the house, left, called the cops. They came and arrested me. And those are the facts.
Wow.
So, the rest was simply tell to the judge. Okay.
And I have so many more questions, but I want people on the panel. I know who this is.
I could be on forever.
I know, that's a lot. Wow. But someone needs to hear it, because people are going through quietly the same stuff, and they're like, "Oh, okay, this is what men do. I muscle up. And I'm like,
yes,
that's not always the case. And again, your vulnerability is a very key component, because many people, when they get down and out, predators come.
Yes,
men and women, but we're talking about men tonight. Predators come.
Yes,
and they come to exploit. And we got to be very careful who we pick up when we're at our lowest. You got to date from being at a high vibration, strength, a high sense of self or self-esteem. You cannot date from a low vibration, or you get people coming that will exploit it. Thank you for sharing that, the Sandman.
Lamont, Sandman, why didn't you leave? Brother Sandman, just curious, why didn't you leave early on?
How long were you in the relationships? I got certain questions, but I want Lamont to get a chance to speak. But go ahead real quick.
Alone with her, isolated with her and by her, and had moved to a new location together to be with her. So
she moved you away from your family.
I chose to leave my family to. I was taking care of my father, who no longer needed my help at the time, and I had to get away from. I was like, okay, I took care of family business. But again, it left me vulnerable in the extreme. I should also say this is on the tail end of the Obama. I'm sorry, the Great Recession, and so this was at the beginning of Obama really coming into power and correcting for those deficits. Well, I lived through them at the height of my education, and it knocked me out of med school as well. So this is so complex. It's not even funny.
So okay, pause, and then I want to ask you after Lamont comments, what gave you the strength to leave? I see that type of. I'm picturing the scenario you just described, obviously, but I'm gonna let Lamont, who's been so patient, come through in the conversation. Brother Lamont, how are you?
Pretty good. Good evening, everyone. How's everybody doing?
Good, thank you. Glad you're
Good.
here. What are your comments on the topic tonight?
I got a lot of comments, but I'll try to because it's such a divorce being, it's such a terrible issue. So I know everybody can that has gone through it can sit here and talk about this, for hours. But this is to the boss lady attorney. I'm in Riverside. My matter's in Riverside. I'm actually going to be in Sacramento Wednesday for a rally against CPS. So long story short, I'm very familiar with California family law, California juvenile dependency law.
He coming to see you, Bri.
A couple things that, in my opinion, need to be addressed in regard. You guys had mentioned being pro se, the lead attorney. I've heard him say things to the effect that, you going in to a family law courtroom without an attorney is something that he doesn't necessarily recommend. But, we got to get into the why that is the case. Now, last I heard, divorce is the number 4 reason for bankruptcy in this country. Now, should you have to, the first thing a family law attorney is going to ask you for is, I believe it's FL 150, the income and expense declaration. And why do you think they want to?
So we know if we gonna get paid. We know if we gonna get paid. Are you got some money saved up? Uncle Stu in the back. You're the last person, Uncle Stu. Only because it's you, Uncle Stu. That's it. That's it, guys. Go ahead.
So
sorry.
that tells you right. That tells you right there what the party's about, right? Is the fleece these hapless people who did nothing legal.
Why we gotta fleece? We're not fleecing. We're providing a service.
Okay. Is it in a child's, because this phrase is thrown around a lot in family law, the so-called best interest? Is it in a child's best interest to take their college money, right, and give it to an attorney so they could spend it on their child's college money? Is that in the child's best interest?
That happened to you?
Okay, look, I'm just me and my wife. I'm of means that I make pretty good money. I'm a parole agent with the state of California. I make pretty good money, so it was I can just work overtime and get that money back. But everybody's not. For instance, like it was for 3 years. I was going to court once a month, right? I just have a job. I have a union job that gives me 8 hours of sick time every month. Everybody doesn't have it like that. I know people who got to the point to where their job was telling them, be off work again and you're fired.
Yeah, I have clients like that as well.
All of this stuff needs to come into play. Now, a couple things that the attorney mentioned. Okay, all right. Domestic violence and child abuse. Those are criminal allegations. Okay, it is my humble and fair opinion that family law lacks the subject matter jurisdiction to adjudicate over a crime. Okay, domestic violence, domestic violence and juvenile dependency need to be adjudicated in criminal court. Okay, and funny that we bring that up in that the success rate in California for domestic violence conviction in criminal court is 10%, and I wonder why it's 10%. Because in criminal court you got to prove it. Right? In criminal court, you can stand up in court and make a statement of fact. You are now under penalty of perjury. And in most cases in criminal court, once the judge catch wind that this initiated out of some family law BS, he immediately kicks it out.
So, okay, you brought up a topic, brother, and I want to let Uncle Stu in because you are you're getting into a
Can I make
yes.
one more comment? I
Sure, go
think it's
ahead. Go ahead. Go
pretty
ahead. Go ahead.
appropriate. Okay, in the context of criminal court, right? Okay, I'm now compared criminal court. Now you tell me if this is fair, right? And the reason why we have just basic fundamental fairness is not at place in family law court. Okay, in a criminal court, the person prosecuting your domestic violence allegation is the county district attorney. Okay, who has a fiduciary responsibility to fairness, to make sure that the guilty party gets charged, yes, and that an innocent party goes free. Okay, in family law court, the person adjudicating a criminal charge against you is a private attorney, right? Who's undoubtedly another interesting thing. Okay, anything that your wife or whoever's filing the domestic violence allegation in criminal court, whatever they tell the district attorney would have to be made known to you. Okay, your wife undoubtedly told her private attorney stuff that was contradictory, right? Stuff that she changed her story, changed the timeline. Stuff in criminal court would be exonerating to your position. It's just family law. It's
I
it's
hear
the
what you're
epitome
saying, and there are two different standards in terms
Yeah.
of prove.
Exactly.
That's where I was going to go,
Exactly.
and your point is well taken. And I'm glad you explained it even further for people who do not practice law. You have two different standards. You have a criminal court standard, and you have a family court standard. And from what I understand, Brother Lamont, you think it should be the same standard, but it is not. So for
Hold on. Domestic violence and child abuse; those are criminal allegations. What you're talking about is preponderance of evidence, which is in this is what every man walking this earth should be told this in the 9th grade. Okay.
Okay. Well, hold on. We're gonna try to teach a little. We trying to teach a little bit tonight. We're gonna teach a little bit tonight. 1 second. Let me pause you, because what you're getting into is the legal standard by which cases are judged. And I think Boss Attorney Bri, but you know this very well. I can see that, Brother Lamont. But there are people who are lost right now. Only reason I'm pausing you is to give them some clarity. So I'm going to ask Boss Attorney Bri, who practices family law, to explain the standard that a person making an accusation must meet there. And then we can talk about the difference, but we're not going to be able to kind of wax philosophical as to what we should do to combine them, because they're separate. And I just want her to at least explain a little bit more to people who don't know what you're talking about. Why? Okay. But your point is well taken to me, but I don't want to leave people in the chat behind. Go ahead, Boss Attorney Bri.
Yeah, so when you're talking about family law restraining orders and criminal law restraining orders, they're two completely different things. When you're talking about criminal law restraining orders or criminal law domestic violence, you're looking at putting somebody in jail. You have to prove that beyond a reasonable doubt. There cannot be any maybe this and maybe that. You have to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. As far as family law go, this is a domestic issue. We're mostly looking at getting someone out of the home because they are, what a lot of people have said on my own stream is, it's ridiculous that disturbing the peace counts as domestic violence, but it does. You're emotionally harming someone in the family law court. It's by preponderance of the evidence. It's very easy to get a restraining order in family law, but it does not it could send you to jail if you violate the restraining order, but you're getting a chance to say, okay, here's a piece of paper to stop me versus here's you go to jail to stop me from doing it further. So we're looking at two different standards. You don't automatically go to jail if you get a restraining order in family law. It's more to separate the parties. The public interest of family law restraining orders is to separate the parties so that they can have enough time to not be in conflict with each other. Its intent is not to send people to jail. Once you get the restraining order, if you are truly not domestically abusing that person, there will be no reason for you to violate the restraining order in the first place. Now, if you are in criminally domestic violence, I'm not sure about the standard of throwing the case out if it comes from family law stuff, but there are domestic violence issues that do stem from domestic violence in the family law that are legitimate claims. I'm not sure exactly what your experience is with it, but with family law, we're not prosecuting someone. I do not practice with juvenile dependency, so I can't go too much into that. But as far as family law restraining orders, they're just not the same thing here.
Yeah, and don't have the same intent. Brother Lamont, I'm going to allow you to respond, and I got to go to Uncle Stu. They were like, we want to hear from Uncle Stu. So I'm going to allow you to respond, and I'm going to give Uncle Stu a chance. Go ahead.
All right. Okay. there's three evidentiary standards. Okay, like she mentioned, preponderance of evidence, which equates to 51%. Now, men
Taking us
think
to
on
law
that.
school, brother. I love it, but
Okay,
go ahead.
hold on. Now, men think on that. Think on that. Every black man under the sound of my voice. The evidentiary standard for you to lose your children is 51%. What does that even mean? How can something be 51% mean if a bank was robbed in a shopping center and you were at the Rouse or the grocery store that was in the same shopping center, 51 preponderance of evidence means that was close enough. It's close enough. There's a third one, clear and convincing, which is 75%. And then there's a 90% that everybody is familiar with, beyond reasonable doubt. Now think on this as well. The state would have a harder time getting your car from you than they would have getting your children from you. Now the preponderance of evidence, it has already been established by the Supreme Court that it is constitutionally absurd. It's too vague. Okay, and like this attorney has already mentioned, anything is domestic. Slamming the cabinet, stomping up and down the stairs, just being a black man. I was on trial. Literally, one of the counselors that I spoke to essentially said that I was an angry black man just because of my size. If you get fast, if you move around, if you raise your voice. Everything under the California Family Law Code, it's in the 3000 section. Check it out for yourself. Everything's domestic violence. Family law needs to be completely reformed. This needs to be completely reformed. There's close to nothing that I would retain in the current family law system. First of all, crimes are adjudicated in criminal court. Number one.
Again, Brother Lamont, we're not going to go through that, Brother Lamont.
Okay, and then other than the crimes, and then we move to, I'm pretty sure the attorney's familiar with, we're going to go into mediation. You know, now I'm sorry, attorney, but I'm trying to put attorneys out of business. Okay, go to mediation. Families do not need to be spending their entire equity that was in their house, right, giving it to attorneys. It's the reason why they ask you for that income and expense declaration, because they're about to go through to hit them pockets.
I will speak on that. There are a lot of attorneys that do overcharge, but however, you also have to consider that the attorneys also have to pay their bills. They're doing work for you as well. I offer payment plans to my clients. I don't bill people by the hour. There are a lot of attorneys that are switching to flat fees so people can understand how much they're going to be charged. However, you can't expect for someone who went to school for 3 years to not make any money.
We're gonna address this. I'm losing viewers. I gotta move on.
Okay.
Great
No
points,
problem.
Lamont. But I need to move on. I need Uncle Stu to get involved. Go ahead, Uncle Stu. How are you? And thank you, Lamont. Point well taken.
Well, I want to thank you. I want to make sure I got clarity on the conversation. So, is my understanding with the conversation is this about men who are victims of domestic violence and why it's not necessarily reported? Is that because I heard so much? I just want to
we've gone clarity. And we were basically covering the stigma, and wanting to understand why it's underreported, what can be done about it, and what men can actually do if they're experiencing this right now. So we went over some tactics as far as, documenting and what is a restraining order, and we just gave some general information about different remedies or ways that you could try, and of course seek an attorney for any specific information about what you can do in a specific scenario. But that, yes, it's more about the stigma and why there are men who underreport it and suffer in silence. That's the main topic.
Okay. Let's go to the underreporting. As ironic as this sounds, statistically, it's not underreported. Statistically speaking, what's happening is that it's not underreported, it's just not being produced in the public atmosphere. And why? It's because there's a anti-political agenda. You see, statistically speaking, almost 49% of men has reported domestic violence. The problem is that it is not politically astute at this particular time for them to start prosecuting many women. Why?
Okay.
There is not a political will to do that. Once that will is pushed, then you would have what's known as equality in that particular area of the law in our political system. Right now, our political system is not looking towards the reporting of what men are describing as domestic violence, or even a pseudo domestic terrorism. So it is being reported. So I want to clarify the reporting part. The problem is that we don't have a political will to truly do anything about it. Why? Because our political will is for women and what they are going through domestically, or for the alphabet community and what they are going through domestically. But it is not the political will for what heterosexual men of all races are going through. Now, I want to bring something that Jeremy in the chat was asking about. I'm going to speak more from my situation. I too am the victim of domestic violence, but the key in my situation is I also had children. So now, if I was to call, there is no domestic violence shelter for a man to be able to take his children to and be able to be totally safe. Second, the other stigma is that he could just get up and go, but he can't just get up and go because the resources that a woman has access to, a man does not have access to. If you look in the United States, there's only one domestic violence shelter for men, and it's strictly single men. There is no domestic violence shelter for men and children. So we have, again, another problem where some men are put in positions where, if they leave, they're going to end up leaving their children. And I think that we have more than enough reports as to men loving their children. So a lot of men stay in these positions
for their kids.
Domestic violence situation because of the children. Now, the other aspect of coming out and defining domestic violence from a male's point of view is how many times will people believe him? I think that when we really look at the belief system, we don't have to look too far. Within 12 hours, we had someone who just viscerally been decimated in just a public space, and he committed no violence. So what?
Who are you referring to, Uncle Sue?
Huh?
Who are you referring to?
Okay, yes, Kevin Samuels.
Okay.
So if he's getting eviscerated and committed no violence, what would a man get eviscerated if he boldly steps out and says, "Hey, man, I'm my significant other, my woman is physically assaulting me. My woman is doing harm to me. My woman is verbally abusing me." You know, either A, he has no support, or B, he's going to get criticized in that, or C, all she needs is a mark on her and he can go to jail versus her going to jail. If you need actual cases, we had one that was done in North Carolina, 2 of them. As a matter of fact, we had a pro football player who was violently assaulted, violently abused, middle linebacker, and at the end of his life, he has none. And this was taken out and reported over and over and over again as to he was the victim of domestic violence. But by the time this gets to court, every woman is going to character assassinate the man she was with. And all she had to say was, "I feared for my life, so I took his life over my life." And she's not going to get hardly any criminal time. And I challenge anybody to study those particular cases. Every time a woman is brought into, quote, criminal court for the deletion of a man, the first thing they do is character assassinate that man from the top of his head to the sole of his feet. He's a YouTuber here. His name just escaped me. Did an awesome article and an awesome podcast about how many men lost their lives as victims of domestic violence, and yet it was not even brought into national attention. So, it is a very layered, complex, but the truth must be out. I'd say to any man right now, you are still a man regardless of how you got in that situation. You're still a man, and no one, I don't care if you got low self-esteem, high self-esteem, no money, or a lot of money, nobody has a right to put their hands on you. Nobody has a right to verbally abuse you, and nobody has a justification for you being the victim of domestic violence. This is what I say to any man, and this is what I say to any woman. Every time we look on the television, what do we see? If a man slapped a woman on national television, we would say she's abusive. But the minute a woman slaps a man, we say, go girl, yeah girl, he deserved it. That's abuse. And until we stand up and take charge of this, we will continue to see men abused verbally, physically, spiritually, and morally. And I am sick and tired of my brothers being abused on TV, being abused in the home, being abused on the street. And I'm going to call it as I see it. It's abuse. If you want equality, then let's have equality, because I can't come on here and say, well, Suzette, and cuss you out, because I guarantee you I had 200 women coming to my platform talking about how dare you be disrespectful to Suzette? How dare you be disrespectful to Dre? But I guarantee you, if you two women attacked me, verbally assaulted me, called me out my name and my character, they'll be sitting here cheering you on, talking about, yeah, girl, get him, girl. Yeah, girl, he deserved that, girl. No, that's called abuse. And as a veteran of the United States Army, I came to defend not only the rights of my people, but all American people. And that includes every single man. I don't care if you're a black man, white man, Spanish man, you have a right to have a voice, you have a right to have peace, and you have a right to have sanity. Period.
Church.
Boy, they asked Uncle Stu to preach out here. Yes, there is no justification. Uncle Stu, 100%. Could not have said it better myself. They said one time for Uncle Stu, dropping gems. And again, that disparity is one that we cannot ignore. And again, many will come and try to make all kinds of arguments for or against, but I'm going to leave you there, Uncle Stu. That's powerful, because again, Boss Attorney Bri, I'm way over her time. But
I'm sorry.
This is an important perspective that you're bringing. So again, agree or disagree, this is important to say out loud, because one of the things I think a lot of times with the domestic violence argument with men is a denial piece, a denial that, some of the behavior is actually domestic violence. It gets very, very, there's social, I don't know if it's misunderstanding or tolerance for behavior that wouldn't be tolerated by a man towards a woman. So your point is well taken. Not only does no one deserve any type of, poor treatment, get out. But we must recognize where there are, societal imbalances with how we view a man in a role versus a woman doing the same thing. I respect that. I understand that. Uncle Stu, I'm gonna have to drop you down, brother. I can stay up here all night with you, but that was amazing. They talking about period. Everybody say it.
Suzette, I did have one quick question for you.
Go.
And
Uncle Stu, I'm gonna let you go down. Thank you for coming up, because we are out of time. Boss Attorney Bri will never come back to my show again, because I'm not respectful of her time when y'all was cooking.
I'll see you next month.
Yes, I'll see you then. Thank you, Uncle Stu, for coming. Y'all subscribe to Uncle Stu, the old man on the block. Y'all see he bring that fire. Thank you, you guys. Again, I know there's so much we haven't even stated, but there's a lot of ground to cover with this argument and with this type of topic. So we're going to go, in one direction, but there are tons of other directions. Brother Lamont, 2X, I respect you. I know you was going in a whole nother direction. Uncle Stu got a direction. I get it. And people have been personally impacted by this. I feel your pain. I feel when you've walked in these shoes, you know what you're talking about. So I don't mean to be dismissive. Please don't take it like that at all. But I know I have to kind of guide where we can go in just the time allotment we have. So please know that I respect each and every one of you. Lamont, thank you. I'm sorry, the Sandman and poor Simon had to drop off because we couldn't keep. They was like, I gotta go. But you're welcome up, guys. It's not a matter of me trying to be dismissive. Just understand that I have time constraints as well that I'm trying to work around with my guests, etc. So we got to kind of stay on topic and stay focused. But your points are valid. Thank you for bringing them up. DL, I'm gonna give you a final word. Then, Boss Attorney Bri, got to go. So let
Perfect.
me know what you got to say. What's your final point tonight?
I would. I mean, what Uncle Stu just said. First of all, that was fire. I'm definitely gonna watch that show when y'all get together next month. I'm gonna see that. And to what Lamont was saying with the family court system being outside of the legal system, outside of the criminal justice system, but couldn't that be a form of abuse towards men? Because there is a disparity within the family court system. And I'm not gonna lie to you. I've been through a lot in my life. We know about this. We talked about it. I've been in the streets. I've been to war. I've been a paratrooper. I've done all that. Never in my life have I ever had a panic attack until I was sitting in the family court at Van Nuys, sitting there trying to figure out what's gonna happen with my son, what's gonna happen with me. Why am I losing all this money? Lamont, I mean, he was off on the tangent. Shout out to you, brother, but he was really on to something. I was being bled. And there was nothing I can do as a man, as a warrior, because here's the thing. I am more than capable of defending myself when I feel attacked, but there was absolutely nothing I could do versus the American judicial system.
Yes.
And I'm telling you, I'm no victim, but I'm telling you, I was taking round after round after round. It was nothing I could do. And I'd rather be shot at in real life than go through that system again. That is the most abuse I have ever endured as a grown-up. So, I mean, and I didn't understand how is this family thing, just to give you real quick, because you're in California, I was sitting in family court facing a contempt of court charge and got arraigned in family court. How is that possible? And that is what Lamont is talking about. Have you ever seen that? And I'm done. Thank you so much for having me on, Suzette.
Go ahead. Boss Attorney Bri, y'all. Go subscribe.
Yeah.
She doing work here tonight. We got
Yeah,
now.
I have seen the arraignment in court, and generally when I do see that, it's because the charge is not necessarily criminal. It's more of you need to comply with the orders versus you're going to jail. I don't know about your personal situation, but from what I've seen, they'll usually arraign you right there. If it's like, okay, you were supposed to drop the kid off at 5 o'clock, but you're dropping them off at 7 o'clock. Let's go ahead and handle this right now. There's no point of scheduling another hearing 45 days away for you to comply with the court order. And I also think a lot of people, when they're in the family court system, we don't really recognize how emotional we are as people, and the fact that you or the person, the wife and the husband, cannot agree on things. So a lot of times that is why we keep going to court, because the parties are not working together to get things resolved. And with the men being disproportionately what they feel like is taken advantage of, we're starting to see a shift in that, because there are more women making more money. There's more women paying child support. There's more women getting their children taken away from them as well. It's just a balance of, are the parties going to agree? What does the law say? Yes, if you had a stay-at-home wife, she is entitled to your money. But guess what? If you were a stay-at-home husband, you're also entitled to her money. So I think we're going to start seeing a shift when it comes to family law and men feeling like they're being taken advantage of. And then a lot more people like Mary J. Blige that got to go throw a concert so that she can pay her husband
about all of
alimony.
But
so I think we're going to start seeing a
Jennifer
shift.
Hudson, Mary J. Blige. There
Halle
are so
Berry.
many people on the opposite side of this thing now that's paying a man, paying a husband, their exes. And I thought about it like it's getting more even, guys. Now those are celebrities. Those are like, high profile cases. What is it? Niecy Nash? Was she married before? Niecy Nash?
Well, and you also had what's the name of old girl that we just talked about it? She's paying her husband a bunch of Kelly Clarkson.
Clarkson, you're starting to see it's not a big tidal wave of change. Let's just be honest. It's still a lot of status quo as it has always been. But you're starting to see exactly what Boss Attorney Bri is saying. There is a shift. It's small though.
But But the point I was trying to make is I'm no stranger to the criminal justice system. Trust me. I've never been convicted or never been arraigned or anything until that day. That was the only time I'd ever been arraigned in my life. And I'm sitting there thinking of all the things I did in my life, allegedly. Here I am sitting in court being arraigned in family court.
My Lord.
Because the petitioner filed some documentation through the help center, and the judge said that they were compelled to follow it through to the end, which meant I had to pay my attorney another $5,000 for a frivolous case. And here's the thing: if I didn't have my attorney, would I have gotten locked up that day? That's what I want to throw out there. And when you talk about what Brother Lamont was saying, I felt his pain. I think he was a little premature jumping on this particular program talking about it.
We wasn't on that. We wasn't on that.
But
I mean, I respect him as a person, but I was like, you talking about overhauling the entire legal justice system. That's not tonight's conversation.
But you could hear the pain.
Yes.
You could hear the pain in his voice, and I definitely understand where he came from, because I was sitting there in family court thinking I might get locked up right now in Van Nuys, California. And I'm not from LA. So I'm like, I'm gonna have to go to the real LA jail with these gangbangers. You talk about over something that the petitioner didn't even really understand what they were doing. How can that be a lawful act when you're not a prosecutor, you're not an officer of the court, yet I'm sitting there thinking I'm gonna lose my freedom over this? So so I just wanted to leave with that, because that absolutely was abuse at the hand of this particular individual, but dealt to me by society, dealt to me by the court.
I'm gonna have Boss Attorney Bri, if she can. I know you're way over time, Boss Attorney Bri. Just when people are falsely accused, I think this is what ties into what you're saying. And I'm gonna drop you down, DL, because she got to go.
Thank you so much.
God bless you.
Y'all take care.
Always a pleasure. You gotta go. Love you. Bye. But that last point, and I had asked it before and I forgot, and I'm glad he kind of comes full circle back to it. When it comes to people making false allegations, what advice, in a generic sense, everybody is different. And again, we cannot give you specific legal advice tonight. That's not what this platform is designed for. But are there repercussions, for example, if a man is the victim of someone giving a false report, make up something in family court, found, evidence later on that, this is directly the opposite of what this person claims? Are there repercussions for those people that a survivor can seek, or sometimes maybe even on the criminal side, can pursue?
Yeah, as far as criminal side goes, I'm not all the way into criminal, so I can't really give my experience on it because I don't really have any.
Yeah.
But as far as family law goes, you can appeal the determination that you are the violator or anything like that. And there's also some provisions under California law that if someone falsely make a statement, falsely says you're doing drugs, falsely say that you abused them and they got money awarded to them, or they got custody awarded to them, it can resort in, if you're able to prove it, all of that being taken away from you. Now, let's say I'm the man, I was falsely accused and I was able to prove that I didn't do those things. Now I would have custody. Now you will owe me child support if the finances warranted that way, or now you owe me spousal support if the finances warranted that way as well. Or it could end up being, hey, you lied about this, so now guess what? You're not getting spousal support. You're not entitled to spousal support. So there are different ways
that in California courts. Wow.
Yeah, so there's some ways where the court can help you out if you are falsely accused and you're able to prove that you were falsely accused. Then there are some benefits to the person that was wronged in the situation.
Absolutely. And here goes a final comment. LK, or maybe IPA, says, appeal means spending more money on these attorneys. Listen, gotta fight it on your own. Yeah, don't hate the player, hate the game. DL says, great show, Suzette. Like and share, people. Final comments from you, Boss Attorney Bri. This has been fantastic. Would love to pay you back in any way I can. If you'd have me on your show, if you ever need a panelist of any kind, I'm here for you, sis. I love your show. Watching from afar, kind of admired you and just reached out. And I'm glad you said yes. So any final comments on this subject matter, or just about you or your channel?
Yes, I'm super happy we were able to cover this topic. I feel like it's been very heavy in the news lately, and I knew your channel was the channel to cover it on because you're always covering the topics that need to be talked about. So, definitely thank you for inviting me onto the show, and I would love to have you on my show and maybe come back onto your show.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's a party. Let's go. I love networking with other YouTubers, fantastic YouTubers like yourself. You are welcome back anytime, maybe even next month. Let's go. And appreciate you. And yes, let's set up a time for me to come over and visit. I would love that. Thank you. Y'all give it up one more time for a guest YouTuber who has been off the clock but overtime with us tonight. Thank you for being a good sport about that. Stayed and went the extra mile with us, and I appreciate you being here. Support her channel. Go over, check her out, and I appreciate you again, sister, for sharing your time and expertise with us. Thank you, Boss Attorney Bri in the building. Good night, my love. Thank you very much, and I appreciate y'all watching. I hope you got something out of this. Again, it is a difficult subject matter to cover, you guys. It's not easy to admit one is experiencing this, so please understand. We did a cursory, very overview of the overview look of some of the bigger legal issues. Again, just understand that you must seek an attorney for your personal instance issues and cases, so that an attorney can give you a one-on-one consultation and make a legal assessment for you. This was only for informational purposes and cannot be taken as legal advice, and neither was that the intent. Tomorrow, y'all, 7 p.m. Get ready. Courtney Michelle comes and graces me for the first time. This is a week of first. I'm excited. So we had Boss Attorney Bri tonight. Courtney Michelle, I am Courtney Michelle, coming to give her reflections on what Kevin Samuels meant to her. And I want to get into her brain a little bit about the reaction from women. A lot has been made about the reaction from some women, not everyone. We won't be using a broad brushstroke to say everybody, but the reaction from women and what she's learned. So I can't wait to bring her on tomorrow. And then Wednesday, instead of Thursday, I'm doing Wednesday. I have a networking event Thursday, so I switched it up. Wednesday, we'll be talking with Sandy B from the Learn Biz, one word, Learn Biz, B-I-Z, the podcast. She's one half of a co-host dynamic duo that's been on this channel before. Shout out to Lisa K. Crawford. And she will be helping me through her expertise understand what happens now to Kevin Samuels' money, specifically the digital asset piece. He's left all this work on YouTube, 8+ years beyond, and it's still making money, probably even more money now that his name has been kind of spread far and wide due to his untimely death. So we are going to talk a little bit more about what digital assets are, what his likely, what will be the claim to his assets, who has the most legitimate claim. I want to be careful with how I word these things as an attorney. I'm thinking about my legal hat, but just we can't make any pronunciations or pronouncements, I should say. Excuse me, not pronunciations, pronouncements definitively. But we're going to explore the topic both through Florida law lens, and Georgia law lens. I'm excited about that. Something different, because I wanted to be genuine. If I'm going to cover Kevin Samuels, I want to be genuine about how I approach it. So thank you. I am Courtney Michelle. Tomorrow, y'all be here. Please support me. This is a big show. This is a big deal. She's a big wig, right? And then please on Wednesday, Sandy B gonna help me uncover some more about what happens with digital assets when you pass. How can you protect them? Those type of things. Because even me now thinking about this, I was like, yeah, what would happen? And who would get this YouTube, work? And it's interesting. So even just reading up about that a little bit has been kind of fun. So anyway, ta-ta for now. It's been fun, guys. I appreciate you guys so much for being here. Yes, that's why I invited her. Thank you, Jeremy. I couldn't do this with any old body. Yes, it was I wouldn't say perfect timing in a kind of morbid way, but perfect timing for her to be able to come on, because we had not picked a topic. And then I was like, Courtney, can you speak about KS? And she was like, yes. So I was like, perfect. Because I want to approach him from a genuine place, not kind of, bandwagony. I wanted someone who could speak on him for real, and who knew him personally, made an impact on her. I can't wait to talk to her about it, because we haven't talked at all. So I'm glad I have someone I can really kind of dig a little deeper with on 7 o'clock Eastern, darling. Thank you. Sweet dreams to the speakers. Have a beautiful night to you guys. I've enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed the show. Please go ahead and like. Also, you can go back after the video's over and comment below it. That helps us in the algorithm. Shout out to Boss Attorney Bri for saying yes, and for helping me to just, do a fantastic stream. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as we did doing it. So anyway, tomorrow 7, Wednesday 7, no show Thursday or Friday. I'm going to need a break, and then I'll see you Saturday. So we back to back, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday this week. All right, y'all. Love you. Have a great night. Take care of yourselves, right? Take care of yourselves and each other. Who said that? I feel like I'm getting that from someone. Take care of yourselves and each other, like a talk show of some sort. But anyway, didn't mean to bite, but just that came to mind. Elda, oh, good night, Miss, aka Attorney. All right, bye for real. See you guys tomorrow, 7 p.m. I am Courtney Michelle. Comes to the Suzette Speak Show. I'll see you then. Have a good night.